Chris. So, with that, that's an incredibly short introduction to the track meeting efforts. Now, what I want to say, what I was glad to see, is the degree of openness that all of the teams, both track A and track B, have shown so far in sharing what they're working on. We want to continue that spirit, as was talked about at the very beginning, from our representative from the Office of Science and Technology Policy. These contests are very competitive, but they're also beautifully collaborative as well. Now, we collected a whole bunch of questions. How many are there, Eric? After 64, we stopped because we only have supposedly a little over a half hour to deliver some of the results. This is only the beginning of us answering the questions. We will continue to answer them, of course, on the website, theroboticschallenge.org. And you just go there and you can ask questions. And of course, if they're repetitive, we'll say see answer number 23, whatever. But in general, we are going to try as hard as we can to answer your questions. We're going to start to do that now. I want to introduce the person who's going to do it. This is Dr. Eric Prodkoff, who is a former program manager from DARPA. Some of you guys who have gray hair like me or missing hair like me may remember that program. It was one of the first mobile robotics programs that DARPA ever had. It came up with the PACBot and the Talon, and that's where Sebastian Thrun got to start working on SLAM. So Eric was remarkably prescient in that sort of stuff. He's on our team now here, working on the challenge here, and so I want to introduce you to him. You're going to be seeing a whole lot of him. And so he's going to start by taking a whack at some of the questions that we've had from today. Again, if you don't hear your particular question addressed right now, that's okay. We will get to it. And then, of course, you can keep on asking as we continue to go forward. So with that, let me turn it over to Eric.
Hi, everybody. So we got, I don't know, over 100 questions. Some of them were incomprehensible, some of them were easy, some of them were difficult, and we just started answering them. Gil did not. He was listening to all of the presentations today, so he did a quick scan of our answers, but we have not really given them thorough consideration. We will revise and post on theroboticschallenge.org, which is going to be the definitive source for answers. There's a FAQ section at the very top. I think that some people wrote their questions before they heard Brian Gerke or Rob Plater give their presentations. So I feel like some of them were already answered, and you'll see what I mean. Justin, I may ask for some block diagrams to go up on the screen. If you can kind of cue those up, that might be helpful. From Brian Gerke's presentation, there was a block diagram. All right, I'll start with 1 and stop with 64. If I misrepresent your question and you feel, that's a crime, he really butchered it, stand up and say something and we'll address it right here on the spot, okay? Number 1, what are the limits on using safety during the challenges, including wireless e-stops or other connections to the robot? So that's a tricky question. For track A and track D, you guys are responsible for providing your own e-stop. Is it wired? Is it wireless? We have not insisted on one or the other. There have been so many competitions with wireless systems that conflict with each other, even though it says it's on different frequencies and the sidebands are far away from each other. Guess what? They clobber each other. So something wired and having a button on the machine is definitely important. During the first year, you'll come up with your design, and at the critical design review, you're going to present your idea for the wireless or wired e-stops, and we'll give you feedback on it. But we're not telling you, here's the kit, tape it on. You come up with your own. For track B and track C, where you would be using the Boston Dynamics DRC platform, that's primarily going to be using a tethered communication system, and I would expect the e-stop to go over that, and it would be part of the system. It's not something that you have to design or innovate. Go ahead, Chris. I don't follow all of that, but we don't advocate cheating, but we don't want to be hard. We don't want to be hard on the robots, and if it's going to produce a comparable result with less wear and tear on the machines, I'm for it. Yes. Okay. Question number 2. What assumptions can we make about the Gator or Ranger? Is there a key that we have to insert? Or is it push to start, but will it have doors? Well, we haven't picked the machine yet. But when we started out, we said it's going to be a Bobcat vehicle. And then we realized, wow, it's really kind of complicated to control this. And your feet have to be very coordinated. And that's not the kind of effort we want. We just want to keep it on the road and avoid big obstacles. So we still haven't picked it. I don't know if it'll be a key or push to start, but we want to simplify that. We don't want to turn it into fine manipulation, reach into your pocket, find the key, reorient it, and put it in and turn it. We're going to try to finesse that as much as possible. Doors, probably not. We're going to try to pick something that doesn't have a roof, so you don't have to worry about headroom, and we're already dealing with door opening in another task, so we don't want to make a big deal in the vehicle part. Number 3, what is the time of runs for the physical challenges? In the virtual challenge, we said it would be 10 minutes for the expected and 30 minutes max. So what's it going to be for the physical? It'll be comparable. I would expect that 10 or 15 minutes you'll be able to do the task. That when we teleoperate the Boston Dynamics GFE platform, we'll be able to do the task in 10 or 15 minutes. And the upper limit, I think a reasonable guess would be 45 minutes. We have to think through the entire day of the competition, and we want to do it all in daylight. If we give 45 minutes max and everybody uses that, can we fit them all in during the daylight? We haven't done that analysis yet. But something 30 to 45 minutes would be the upper limit on how long one of the 8 tasks would take for the physical challenge. Number 4, is there a specific version of ROS that will be supported for the DRC? Which one? Okay, so there's the VRC, and you're going to have to run the GFE simulator for that. And as I understand it, and Brian save me if I step in here, but as I understand it, when you build that, some ROS libraries may be involved. So you'll always, whenever you check out the most recent version of the simulator, all of that will be included. So you don't, and it's, we'll freeze it at some point, but in the months ahead, you just take whatever the most recent build is. So that, I think that's true for the VRC. Brian, is that good? And for the physical challenge, you don't have to use ROS. You can if you want to. You can pick whatever version you want. But we're not telling you what software to write. We're telling you what the robot has to do for the drive the utility vehicle, close the valve. If you want ROS, use it. And if you don't, don't. Question 5. Assuming 802.11n wireless What frequency should we use, 5.6 gig or 2.4 gigahertz? Well, that's a complicated question, and we talked about it with the wireless e-stop already. I don't feel like I can add to anything to that. We don't know that you're going to need wireless, and if you are going to use wireless, you tell us what your plan is. We're not going to. We will have a DARPA communication system, but we have not figured out exactly what channels it's going to use and frequencies and bandwidths. So, don't know. Question 6. Will maps be provided of the challenge site? So I think somebody who wrote this question was thinking about the urban challenge and the maps with all the waypoints and the route network definition file. Nothing like that. We're going to, let's say, pick the event of crossing rubble. Will we provide, that's going to be in a, 40 by 40 meter area. Are we going to provide a digital elevation model saying exactly how high each grid cell is? No, we're not going to give you a map at all. We're going to give you a sketch and say, when you report to the rubble crossing event or task, show up at this pod at this time, and your start will be here and your end will be here. And we'll kind of force you to go through a graduated progression of difficulty, starting on the flat floor, some low vegetation, some tall vegetation, a slope, whatever treachery Gil Pratt dreams up for you. But we're not giving you a map. We're not going to give you an elevation model or a vegetation model or anything like that. Number 7, what kind of connectivity will the operator station have to DARPA's network? Again, there's kind of two separate answers, one for the DRC and one for the DRCs. For the virtual robotics challenge, Justin, this would be a good time to show that block diagram if you can find it. There's your ground station, which is the stuff at the bottom of the screen. And then there's the cloud, everything in the gray. So there's two computers in the cloud, this one and this one. This one's going to run the simulator, and this one's going to run the code that talks at high bandwidth, your perception, planning, and control stuff. And then separate from that, down here, off the cloud, it's your lab, your site, wherever you're going to, this is where your operator is, and you send your commands up, and then they go to the robot and back. So the question was, what kind of connectivity will the operator station have? Well, you're going to, when we run this competition, we're going to say, okay, your time slot is, and go to the cloud, find a machine, a Linux machine, run the simulator on it. Here is the IP address for it. Open a new machine on the cloud, run the onboard code on it. Here is your IP address. Now, clock is started. Go. Do the tasks. Send all the data back and forth. So this is going to be a, you guys can decide what computers you're using and whatever connectivity you have to the cloud. If you choose wireless, go for it. If you use wired, that's your choice. So that's the answer for the DRC. For the DRC, what is the connectivity the operator station will have to DARPA's network? Again, we haven't finalized it, but I'm envisioning that you're going to have a garage or a pit area. Your operator will be running a computer system there. It'll send commands to the DARPA computer, a communication system, which then relays it to the robot. Leave that to us. In some ways, it'll be wired for the Boston Dynamics DRC platforms. It'll be wired for the track A and D. It's whatever you guys provide. It's a complicated answer to what seemed like a simple question, but there are different cases you have to consider for connectivity. Number 8. When will we be able to swap out batteries between the events or between sub-events? from my point of view, when we're going to say, okay, get ready to do the utility vehicle event, show up, clock starts. If you have to go in and change a battery, I'm not stopping the clock. You can go do that if you have to, but that time counts against you. And but if you've gone and done the utility vehicle event, you're done with that, and now you're in transit to the next event, to the next task, go ahead, recharge. You're not on the clock there. So, will we be able to swap out batteries? Sure. Sometimes it'll count against you, and sometimes it won't. Number 9, what kind of range can we expect from a wireless system? I've already gone into wireless enough. I'm not going to spend more time on that one. Number 10, will scenario environmental models be provided, for example, the ladder and the vehicle, for the simulation? Absolutely. That is, we're giving you the model of the robot, we're giving you the model of the tasks to be done and all the objects in the environment. That's we're giving it to you in graduated fidelity. And they're crude versions now. If you download DRC Simulator 1.0, Brian, what are they going to get? What objects will they get in 1.0? They get the robot and hose. So that's what you got. So Brian's answer was that you get a crude version of the utility vehicle, a hose, and some of the hand tools, and the robot. And all of those are going to be improved. They've just gotten under contract. And if you had to deliver everything to the public 6 weeks after the start of your contract, think of it, that's a very tight schedule curve. So we're going to be adding these over and over and over. There will be announcements on theroboticschallenge.org whenever we have something new. They'll also be on the OSRF and Gazebo wikis and bulletin boards. But we are going to validate these models, so they're getting better and better and better. And as soon as we get the first versions of the Boston Dynamics platform, we are then going to have that platform do all of the tasks. We're going to compare what it does against our simulation and adjust. That's what we mean by validated simulation. So the validation is going to happen sometime in March. So sometime in April, I would expect that we would publish the validated models of all the things that would be part of the DRC. The comment is about not overfitting. You may train like crazy with a utility vehicle where you have to apply so many newtons to make it accelerate at such and such a rate. But that doesn't mean it's going to be that way in the real challenge. And we are intentionally going to vary some parameters, and some parameters we just will have never quite gotten right. So you need to be careful about not treating it as gospel, not treating it as the final set of parameters. Realize that we are going to be preventing you, discouraging you from overfitting. Number 11. Oh, I just did that one. Number 12. Will Boston Dynamics provide on-board robot state estimation relative to the IMU in the head, or what IMU is going to be used? Well, we have not worked all of those questions out. The principle here is our intent is to provide raw sensor data. not estimated states. And at what level is it raw and when is it cooked? That can be subtle. We haven't resolved all of that. But don't expect that we're going to have a Kalman filter running that will put together all the state information over time and publish that. That's your job, not the platform's job. Number 13, will safety systems be part of GFE platforms? I already answered that one. Number 14, for the DRC, what computational resources will we have on the robot side? Back to the diagram here. What resources will we have on the robot side? So you'll have two machines here, one of them to run the simulator and one of them to run the perception planning, control, all the cool stuff that you've provided. We haven't spec'd those out, but we've been doing a lot of shopping. Brian, one of them's going to be a GPU, or are they both going to be GPU systems? What can we say about that so far? Timeout. So we said the simulator will have a GPU. Repeating for the web audience, the answer was that the simulator will run on a GPU, but you don't really care because you can't run your code on that. Our simulator is running there. And this system that your code will run on may have a GPU. We expect it to be as similar as possible to the system that will be used as part of the DRC platform provided by Boston Dynamics. And again, we want to give you all the memory, all the cycles, all the L2 cache that we can buy at a reasonable cost and fit on the back of a utility vehicle or fit in a, without needing air conditioning and cooled water and raised floor. So it's going to be the highest end system we can afford. We haven't spec'd it out yet. Number 15. We're on our way to 64, remember. Number 15. Will a mobile safety harness be supplied with the GFE platform? No. We'll tell you what safety harness has been used successfully in various labs, including at Boston Dynamics, but it's part of your design. And you saw the variety of the Track A robots. I can't wait to see what we get in for Track B. Is there going to be a harness that works for all of them? Maybe, but I'm not going to design it. You guys have to design it. And at the CDR, the Critical Design Review, at the end of year one, whatever month that is, for Track A, you need to show your design to us and have confidence that it will prevent falls or damage to either personnel or robots. So the safety harness is on you, but we don't have any secrets. So we know the right way, and we're not going to tell you. Boston Dynamics is going to explain the block and tackle systems that they use, and I bet you that Jerry Pratt, who has a lot of experience with this at IHMC, would make his information available. So it's a collaborative process. I think that our community will share that information. So don't be shy about asking. And the theroboticschallenge.org will have a forum where you can post and say, I need help designing the harness. And seek and ye shall receive. Number 16, how much power will the GFE robot need? We don't have an answer to that, but I don't know that you need to know. It's going to run for the duration of the task, to the time limit that we've given. And Aaron? The answer is less than 15 kilowatts for wall power for your laboratory development. So for the web audience, it was 3-phase power, 208 volts, 15 kilowatts would be the maximum. Number 17, what are the specs of the GFE robot sensor head? They haven't purchased and designed it all yet. It was the Carnegie Robotics platform. It was in the Boston Dynamics Rob Cleveland presentation. So that's as good as you're going to get until we publish a user guide. That would be a good thing. So the comment was that there are some specs for the Carnegie Robotics head. They haven't been published yet. We'll put them on the roboticschallenge.org. Number 18, can we get the GFE robot sensor head early? No. Unless you buy your own, you're getting it with the robot system. Number 19, what will the size and weight of the debris be? I assume that means the debris that's blocking the doorway and you have to pick it up. The size, the shape will be irregular. The weight will be no more than 5 kilograms, just like it said in the DA. And you ask any individual piece, well, there's going to be a pile of stuff. You don't have to move all of it. The biggest piece that you'll have to move is going to be 5 kilograms. And another way to answer this, I think, is to say that the GFE platform will be able to do all of the tasks that we give it, including moving the debris. Number 20, can you go back to the utility vehicle to replenish or replace the power source? Can you go back to the utility vehicle? Well, if you are in track B or C and you're using the GFE platform, you don't have to go anywhere. The power comes over the tether to you. If you're in track A or D, I mean, some of you are using tethers, some of you are using non-tethered systems. If you need to recharge yourself, make it happen. I don't care how you do it. You're on the clock. Once the event starts, we say time begins, and if you cannot complete the task, you did not complete, did not finish. And if you can complete it, but you had to go and service the robot by changing the battery, that will impact your time. Number 21, will there be limitations to the GPU and CPU size and power for the operating station? For the virtual robotics challenge, the system down here can be whatever you want. We indicated, by these layers here, it could be desktops, laptops, supercomputers, things in the cloud, things on your person, things on your desk, whatever you want. Same thing at the site. I mean, you're not going to, at the test site for the physical challenges in 13 and 14. Good luck trying to get the supercomputer to run at our site, but if that's your design, we're not going to say you can't do it. Show us. But so the spirit of that question, are there limitations? No. On board, yes. Off board, you okay. Number 22. Are all tasks expected to be done in a continuous sequence? Well, not. So I think this is about well, let me answer it separately for the virtual and the physical. For virtual, you're going to have to do all 8 tasks, and Sorry, all 3 tasks, thank you. 3 for the virtual, and you'll do 5 reps of each one. And I don't believe we care what order you do them. That's going to be up to you. There may be an implementation restriction on that. I don't think so. In principle, though, I don't care. So that's the virtual. For the physical, we have we're doing everything in one day. So everyone, we're going to have lots of robots moving through lots of stations, and we're going to give you a schedule and the order that you have to do it. Is it continuous? No. I mean, you're going to do, everybody will have, a certain amount of time for the first task. You're done with that, move to the next one, ready, go. Done with that, move to the next one, ready, go. So it's not continuous. You can recharge and fill in between. Number 23, how will we proceed if another robot is in the way? Not applicable. You're going to be the only robot performing your task at your designated time. So there will be no other robot in the way. Number 24, can Track A teams that don't continue after 8 months and fall back to Track B get back to funded status in Phase 2? Track A teams that don't continue after 8 months, if they don't pass the CDR, can they get funded again? I don't think so. I'd have to look at that program tracks diagram. Sorry, I'm getting a little addled here, but I don't think that's feasible, probably not. But the answer is in the program tracks chart. Number 25, how much computing power is available on the robot side of the GFE? So again, there's an answer for virtual and a separate answer for physical. I think I've gone over that already. I don't have anything more to say about it. Number 26, is the operator a team member or an expert? Well, we hope they're both. It's got to be a team member, and I would recommend using your most talented person as an operator, and I would call him an expert. But I think that I'm being a little facetious in that answer. I think you're asking, I think the spirit of the question is, are you going to tell me who the operator is, or am I going to supply it? You supply it. It would be a great expo thing to do the day after the DRC events. Not the Saturday, but the Sunday, the 22nd. It would be a great thing to say, volunteers, come on down, drive my robot. Or I have a volunteer in Germany or Switzerland or Malaysia who's going to drive it. And that will be a nice thing to see. Number 27. Is TCP expected to mitigate packet loss? I don't think I understood that question. Any IP-based protocol may be used. I think this is, there's a virtual answer and a physical answer. And, I don't know. Number 28. Will you commit to a rules freeze at some point well before the DRC? Our intent is to publish a draft of the rules and to collaboratively work with the entire community to make it so that everyone thinks they're fair, and then to publish them. And we have drafts of all of that now. We haven't released anything yet. We'll look for that soon. And with your feedback, we'll iterate and finalize it. We don't want to be tinkering with this for very long. But rules never cover everything. And there's the need for a judge on site who can make a final determination. And I don't think, I think we will have a chief judge, the program manager most likely, and their decisions are going to be final. But we're sympathetic to concerns about a moving target, and we want to fix the target. Number 29, will all qualification events happen on non-holiday, non-weekend weekend days. Well, some events are already planned for a weekend, namely the final two events, the DRC on the Saturday, and the awards, and the expo on the Sunday. But we're going to do our best to avoid federal holidays in all of the World Cup. So for the virtual robotics challenge, Dr. Pratt showed the schedule. There's like a 2-week period for qualification and a 2-week period for doing the actual competition. So you can pick your days within that 2-week period. Number 30, will the deterministic bandwidth / latency schedule vary across repeated runs? So we've said we're going to monkey with the bandwidth and the latency. Will that vary across repeated runs? I don't know how to, that's a tricky way of phrasing it. Let me try to answer the way I understand it. We're going to have a set of configurations, starting position, the position of all the objects in the virtual and real environments. Actually, I guess this really, let me answer it for the virtual competition first. Every team will have exactly the same set of configurations. So you do task 1, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Task 2, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everyone's going to have exactly the same configurations of when the bandwidth changes, when the latency changes, what those values are. So if that's deterministic, will it vary across repeated runs? Well, between runs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a single task, yeah, I mean, it is varying, but it's the same for all teams. Number 31, will DARPA introduce weather conditions beyond the natural outdoor setting? Bill, do we have funding for a fog machine or a wind machine? I want to try some of these things.
So I can neither confirm or deny any DARPA programs. However, we do actually get phone calls. I'll just leave it.
We're not going to put in fog or smoke or wind. Nature will do that. There's another question later about that, but we will not intentionally affect the weather. Number 32, will all 24 robots compete at the same time? So this is a question about the physical DRC, and the answer is yes. Everybody at the same time. Number 33, what are the time limits per event? We already talked about that. For virtual, it's 10 expected, 30 max. For the physical, it's going to be 10 or 15 expected, 30 or 45 max. Subject to fitting everything into one day. Number 34, will the events be continuous from a team perspective, or will there be a global start-stop for all teams? Well, it's not going to be continuous. We'll have things lockstepped so that all 24 robots start now. Everyone's done, move to the next station. Ready, start now, stop, move to the next station. So it's not continuous like drive, get out, walk, move the debris, open the door, go in. That story is continuous, but that's not how we're going to run the competition. Number 35, in the DRC events is waterproofing required. We're not going to introduce any water. Teams should expect there to be some, there may be morning fog or mist, so there'll be some moisture in the air. And if there's a very light rain, we would expect to continue. If it's a moderate or a heavy rain or lightning, we're going to discontinue. So that's a safety issue, both for the robots and all the personnel. So if it's a light rain, do you need waterproofing? No, but if you have exposed solder joints or anything that's not, any electrical connection that's exposed to the weather, it's probably not a safe practice. But that's different than waterproofing. Number 36, how tall is the person referred to in the VA? Well, we didn't have a specific height. I think the real question is asking, our robot isn't as big as the program manager. Will it still be able to do all the tasks? Absolutely, the GFE platform will be able to do all of the tasks. I'm not going to say easily, but well within its performance capability. I didn't see, a scale diagram for every robot here, but we were trying to think, well, what would an event, a task be that it couldn't reach? Closing the valve, driving the vehicle, walking. I think every robot I saw a picture of would be able to do all of these things. So that's not really an answer to the question, but if you have a more specific concern about a specific task, please let us know, and we'll try to answer that specific concern. Number 37 is another wire to wireless thing. You guys really are taking to heart the problems of wireless, and that's very prudent. But I don't have another way to answer it. Number 38, can a Track A team model their robot in the DRC simulator? Can a Track A team model their robot in the DRC simulator? Power to you, if you want to, go ahead. But I think the intent of this question might be, for the CDR, the Critical Design Review, at the end of the first year, we're supposed to show, Track A teams are supposed to show the robot performing tasks in simulation. I think the question is, do we have to use the DRC simulator? No, you don't have to for that CDR. You can use your favorite credible simulator. Not just an animation of the system running, truly a model-based simulation. But Ryan Gerke and his team are making it so that you can import robots and you can import environments. So if you want to put your robot into the Gazebo DRC simulator, we want to make that easy, and we'd encourage you to do that, but it's not required. Number 39, will the VRC event occur at a specific location? No. Well, there is an event, and, there will probably be something in this very room, or on the monitors in the DARPA building, or even the Pentagon, even the White House, showing some of the activities. So there may be a media event that would be at a specific location, but back to my favorite diagram here. This is wherever you say it is. It's at your lab, basically. And this is in the cloud. It's going to be at a server in Lansing, Michigan, or Bombay, or I don't know where they're going to be.
So let me try to answer that question. The cloud is not evenly distributed around the globe, and you know that. And so for teams that are international, I'll speak into Eric's microphone here, for international teams, we will work in order to make the contest fair. And if that means introducing a little more delay for people that are closer to where the machinery is, then we'll do that. But we will level the playing field so that it's fair throughout the whole way. Not quite sure yet exactly how we're going to do that, but we understand that that's an issue, and that some of the teams will be further away from the resources in terms of these comments here than some of the other teams.
Number 40, will there be VRC practice at the cloud site for Track B teams? Yes. So there was a qualification period. Yeah, Justin, if you can put up that chart, that would be valuable. There's a qualification period that's probably not going to be using the cloud, it'll be using your lab. And then a practice period, I think we had 15 days, and then the actual event, which is another 15 days. And I'm buying. We're going to rent time on the cloud for you to use. There'll be some time limit, and you're, if that's not enough, you can rent more. Number 41, is the operator interface hardware for the DRC provided? No. That is this stuff down here. An OCU, operator control unit, if it's a joystick or a game controller or a suit or a Connect system, whatever you guys come up with, we aren't providing that. You are. Yeah, so this is going back to the previous question. Will there be practice at the cloud site? That's here. And it'll be using exactly the same procedures that are used for the competition. I can't hear, say again. The question is this both track B and track C? Yes, I'm sorry, you're correct. This should say track B and track C. Yeah, this registration is true for track C, but these apply equally to track B and C. Good call, thank you. Number 42, for driving, is the angle of the heel going to control vehicle velocity? So I think this is about the DRC, and you're pressing on the accelerator. Angle of heel, no, but how hard you press on the accelerator pedal will control the both acceleration and interactive velocity. But if you want to use your hands instead of the heel to press on it, we're open to all of your good ideas. Number 43. Foot placement was mentioned, but it was implied that walking control will be provided. When is an API going to be published for that? Foot placement was mentioned, it was implied walking. So I think this is about the DRC, the Virtual Robotics Challenge. Well, there's answers for both. We will provide a walking controller that works on a flat ground, that moves the joints so that forward motion, sideways or reverse motion, I'm not sure exactly what, but that motion would happen. But it's not going to be able to weave through a complicated area or plan where to put the feet. That's your jobs. That controller will not do it. There's not going to be a planner that sequences that. So, reading the question again, foot placement was mentioned, implied that control will be provided. Yeah, so the plan is to provide that in month 3. So are we in month 0 now? Or? Yes, March. In the March time frame. And the API to the walking controller, all working for the virtual DRC simulator. And I guess the same thing is true, but the schedule is probably different for the DRC platform. It won't be in March, it'll come when you win the Virtual Robotics Challenge. When somebody wins, when one of these guys, either out there on the web or in this room, wins the DRC and gets one of those 6 platforms, it'll come with that walking controller. It'll walk on the flat floor without you doing anything except calling the walk function. Number 44. Number 44, the DRC simulator is early and just starting beta testing. What steps are being taken to mitigate risk of it being unstable? Yeah, it's just starting, and look what great progress they've made in 6 weeks. We believe, and we are putting Darpa's resources and the open source community's resources into making this happen. And the delivery of DRC Simulator 1.0, I think, augurs well for on-time delivery. We don't have another simulator that we think is better, or another group that we think could be better, and we'll switch to them. our eggs are in that basket, and we're going to work it as hard as we can. Number 45, will the Gator or Ranger or utility vehicle have a manual or an automatic transmission? Automatic. Number 46, is there a GPS or navigation sensor? So on the GFE platform, we've talked about putting a low-cost, low-quality global positioning system and receiver. I'm not positive that's in our baseline. No, not right now. Is there another navigation sensor? Well, there's an IMU in the head. We're not trying to do a Kalman filter and turn that into a motion track, or motion history. So the answer, I think, is no. Yes, Chris. The question is, for the door, how do we designate it? And it's not going to be like there's a hallway with 20 doors and we put an X on one. It's going to be sort of a standalone door frame for the physical challenge, in a wall, and it's going to be the only door there, and you're going to have to find it and find the handle. But it's not going to, there's no ambiguity in which door. And we're going to start for door opening for that specific task. We don't want to conflate all the other mobility and navigation things. You're going to start right near the door. And same thing for the closing the valve. It's not like you have to run through an obstacle course and jump over this and climb over that, get to the valve and close it. The only thing is to close it. Go ahead. So now the question is not about the door, it's about the travel through the dismount, travel through the rubble field.
If you can start that,
we haven't decided that. But we're going to keep it simple, and it's going to be an obvious lane. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Jersey barriers, K-rails, and you have a corridor, and you're going to wind through, and there's a patch of sand, and a patch of grass, and a patch of cinder blocks, or something like that. And it may be straight, and maybe just gently winding, but it's not going to require map skills to find your way. Will the Gator have a start button or a key? Again, we're going to try to keep that simple. My choice would be a start button. Can we lease or buy enough of those with the start button? Maybe we'll have to get a key, but we want to keep that simple.
It would be great if you can start building it. No, I'm saying, the starting point.
The comment was that there's a key, we'll keep it real simple. Number 48. In both DRC and DRC events, is there a single operator, or can an operator be backed up by a team? Could there be a few people looking over your shoulder and giving you advice, or can it only be a single person? We're not going to measure that, we're not going to specify that. A use case, ultimately, think about how this would, for Professor Todokoro, going into a real disaster site, all of the colorful pictures he showed us. Would there be a committee operating the robot? No. For our competition, can you have 1, 2, 3, one person on the controls and 2 or 3 people whispering in his ear? Yeah, you guys can figure that out. We're not going to restrict that. You don't get credit for one and you don't get a penalty for n. Number 49. Will the robot be allowed to use additional simple human tools like a bar or a glove or a different hand? The answer is yes. or you've got to carry it with you and bring it with you for all the different tasks. So if it's going to have a crowbar, you can't use it just for the moving and debris task. You've got to carry it with you for the utility driving, the utility vehicle, dismounted travel, closing a valve. It comes with you. That was the same question with, can I have a team of robots? Sure, but they all go with you for all the tasks. Number 49, number 50. For the GFE robot, will the hands provided enable whole body motion and locomotion as shown in the Atlas video? So I think that means can it support you leaning on them? Yes, the hands will be able to manage that. Could you do a handstand and walk only on the hands? I doubt it. But for incidental use in stabilizing the vehicle, our intent is the hands will be able to manage that. Number 51, will the GFE robot have microphones? No, it's not a bad idea. That could be useful, but no, we do not have that in our package right now. If you're all incredibly hungry for microphones, let us know and we'll consider it, but not in the current baseline. Number 52, what are the computer specs for the GPU? I already talked about that. Number 53, when will the validated simulator be released? It's almost on that picture, but in order for us to do the validation, we have to have the robot and the simulation, and we simulate the task, and we watch the robot do the task, and then we compare. And if they compare favorably, it's validated, and if they don't, it's we got to do some more work. That should happen in March, and I think we would expect the validated simulator to be released in April. Number 54. Do we need to open the source and binary code to participate in Track C and Track B? For Track C and Track B, DARPA's not funding you. We don't expect to have your intellectual property or your source code or even your binaries. We may need, in order to actually run the simulations in the cloud, we may need some executables from you so that we can then put it on the machine in the cloud. But we're not going to inspect it or look at it. We didn't pay for it. DARPA's not going to have any claims on it whatsoever. Number 55, are teams permitted to collaborate with each other and intertrack? Yes. There's no limitation on that. In fact, I thought that this morning's speaker from the White House said it very eloquently. This is where the people who really care about making something happen, not just is my team going to win, but this is where the collaboration really shines. And I know a lot of you from working with you for decades, and I know you're that kind of crew, and I would expect that. So that collaboration is definitely encouraged, both in discussions, putting some of your source code in the open community, or feeding it back to the simulator, all kinds of ways to collaborate. We do encourage that. We don't require it. Number 56. In the simulation, are the 5 environments fixed or random? Kind of a trick question. They're not random, but they're not fixed. They're deterministically varying from run 1, run 2, and 3 to run 5. All teams could have exactly the same configurations. But they vary between runs and even in a run. It might be the case that, oh, my bandwidth is great. I'm getting 10 megabits a second, 10 megabits to 1 megabit per second per minute. Big dropout and back up to 10 megabits. So there could be variations within. All the teams will have exactly the same conditions. Number 57, for the DRC, what is the expected latency and bandwidth between a user and the cloud? So that's from your lab up to the cloud. We can measure that, and I know that the guys at OSLF are currently doing that. We'll publish that, but it's going to vary. The your mileage may vary. It depends on what your site is. And as Gil mentioned in his earlier answer, we are going to take that into account, and teams that by misfortune or geographic misfortune are far from the cloud, we will take that into account. Number 58, will there be any limitations to the operating systems or programming languages on the cloud computer? Yes. The simulator is going to run on a Linux machine. We're going to tell you what the computer is and what the operating system is for the computer that your perception planning and control system is going to run on. Ryan, is that correct? Right, so if you wanted, the answer from Brian Gerke was, we'll provide a Ubuntu Linux machine and give you the root password, and you go to town. If you want to delete that and reinstall Windows on that machine instead, or Unix, or whatever your favorite operating system is, that's fine. Number 59, when can we expect useful PID parameters in the DRC simulation? Our belief is the current Gazebo release includes parameters that are not realistic. I'm not too surprised. We hurried up and got DRC Simulator 1.0 out, and we are going to successively refine it. If there's something wrong, great. Put your post on the forum. We're monitoring that, and the more people who gripe about something, the higher that'll go on our priority list to fix. I don't have an answer to when exactly that will be. We want our simulator to be, we're ultimately going to be validating it. We're successively refining it. Number 60, will it be possible to have day-night conditions in the DRC simulation? So, we're not explicitly in the simulator modeling sunlight or moonlight or ambient lighting conditions. We are modeling the sensors. But I believe that the assumption is that there's an abundant illumination. So we're never going to do our physical challenges will all be during the daylight. And so dark or smoky conditions is not part of our profile here. Everything will be well lit. Number 61, in the event that a Track C team proceeds that is outside the U.S., will a GFE robot be deliverable internationally? You win, you get the robot. I don't care where you are. As long as you, when you sign up for the Virtual Robotics Challenge, you have to accept the terms of service, terms of use for our website and for the competition. So only organizations that are allowed by international and national agreements, treaties, and other laws who are allowed to do this kind of thing with the United States are eligible. And when the time comes, we're going to check that everybody really is who they say they are. But other than that, if you're in a country in good standing with the United States, and you win the DRC, we're sending you a robot. Number 62. What are the exact specifications required to participate as a Track C team? See the terms of use. If you have any question about it, the attorneys here on the 13th floor will help you answer any questions about it. Yes, please. The question is, if we have 1,000 Track C teams, how will we select them? So we have, the idealistic answer is that we're going to go to our community and ask them to donate cloud time for 1,000 teams, or to let us have a cut rate. We're going to pay for as many as he can provide funding. And we've baselined 100, and we have a budget for 100 for sure. If we can get a great deal on cloud time, or if a manufacturer is going to buy the cloud time, then we'll have 1,000. And if we have 10,000 people, bring it. We want everybody to participate. So in practice, we may not, in resources may prevent us from having a full 1,000. Our goal is to have everybody participate.
And since this is on the web here, I'll make sure to speak here. Part of what we're going to do, and part of the reason that we can change the rules and turn the knobs and all this stuff, is that we can make different segments of this harder or easier in order to control the pyramid of who eventually are the 6 best performing teams that get the robot. So for example, this qualification round right here, it turns out that the number of teams we think might get through this ends up being in the 1,000. We may make this harder as an example. But we will do our best to find the resources to actually work this all out.
Number 63, almost there. Is the Track C participation purely on a first-come, first-served basis? No. This is not a race to see who can hit the website fastest. I believe that if we have several hundred participants, we're going to find a way to say yes to all of them. The exact criteria we're going to use, if we can't accommodate all, we haven't worked out yet. Our goal is to get everybody in. Number 64, is there a dedicated wiki for feedback? Yes, the roboticschallenge.org has a forum, and we will also post all of the answers to questions in the fact section of that website. Also, the Open Source Robotics Foundation has a number of different forums for documentation, wikis, and listservs, etc., for the simulator, which are separate from the program. That was number 64, and that's all we're going to go through the rest of them, and we'll put all of the questions and all of the answers on the fact site of theroboticschallenge.org. Give us a week or so to do that, and if the answers weren't clear or you want follow-up, you know how to reach us.
Okay, so we only have a few more things to do. First of all, I want all of the DARPA and CETA support staff that help run the meeting here, as well as running the challenge, to come up front, please. You know who you are. Come on, Jared. All right, this is just about everybody. I think we may be missing one or two, but this gives you a little bit of an idea of the team that we have, even just now, just starting the challenge, who have been working incredibly hard, and for most of them, the greatest fraction of their time on working on this thing. So first of all, I want to have a big hand to all of them. And so know that without these folks here, this thing could never have been sold inside this building to begin with. Actually, it was in the old building, but you know what I mean. And could not have come to where it is now. And they, of course, are going to be here making it possible for all of you. So thank you guys very, very much. With that, I'd like to conclude the session. I need to just say one last thing, which is that, again, because of the building that we're in, the rules are that you can take pictures inside of this room as much as you want. So if you want to take pictures of your friends and all that stuff, it's perfectly fine to do, but you have to do it within this room that doesn't have any glass windows into other parts of the building. But please don't do it once you're out of the doors here. So anyway, thank you very much.